So now we're going to solve the domain and range for f of g and for g of f. So the domain of f of g is a set that is going to satisfy 14 over x greater than or equal to -2 and x equals 0. So when you solve this inequality, you end up getting that x is less than or equal to -7 and that x is greater than 0. Now we don't say that x is greater than or equal to 0 because we don't want it to equal 0. Another way you can word this, then probably the best way would be to put it in interval notation. So if you put this in interval notation, it would be -7. We include -7, so that's why we have a bracket here. And then we never include infinity. And then 0 to positive infinity. So this is the domain for f of g. Now we're going to find a domain for g of f. Like we were doing for the domain of f of g, we need to find a domain of g of f that is going to satisfy the square root of x plus 2, which doesn't equal 0, as well as x is greater than or equal to -2. Now this one is simpler than our other because the only value that doesn't satisfy this is -2. So that just leaves us with the domain of -2 to infinity. See, simple as that. So now we're going to move on to finding the range of each function. So because the range is a set of outputs for a function, we need to examine each part of the domain plugged into the function in order to find the range. So for f of g, the domains were, let's do f of g. They were x is less than or equal to -7, and then x is greater than 0. So we're gonna examine each of these part by part, and I'll go ahead and start with x is less than or equal to -7. So when you plug in -7 into the equation, you find that f of g is 0, so that becomes your lower bound. And now for the upper bound, this is y because range. And now for the upper bound, you're gonna find, you're gonna plug in larger negative numbers because since it's less than -7, it's gonna go like -8, -9, -10, so on and so forth. And when you do that, you find that it approaches square root of 2, but it never actually reaches square root of 2. So therefore, that leaves the product of your domain to be 0 is less than or equal to y, which is less than square root of 2, or like again, if I put into notation, 0 square root of 2. Simple as that. So now we're going to look at the f of g domain, which is simply just x is greater than 0. So when you plug in numbers larger than x into this equation, you find that f of g gets close to the square root of 2, but it never actually equals it. So this results in the product of this domain to simply be y is greater than square root of 2. And that's it. So if you want to write this in interval notation, this would be open bracket or open parentheses square root of 2 to infinity. So now if you want to put it all together, now we see that the range of f of g is 0. Or y greater than square root of 2. Or if I'm put into rotation, bracket square root of 2 union square root of 2 to infinity. So this is the range of the function f of g. So when we did this was when we plugged in -7, and this was when we plugged in 0. So now we're going to go and find out what the range is for g of f. Alright. So earlier we found that the domain for g of f was simply x is greater than -2. When you plug in the values greater than -2 into its function, which is you find that the value is going to approach 0, but it never actually equals 0.